Now, to close off this section, let's take a quick look at a couple of different events that occur in the DOM during a web page's life cycle. And when we say life cycle, we mean right from the moment that the page is first accessed until the user leaves it. And let's do that right here at the end of this file. Now, the first event that we need to talk about is called DOM content loaded. And this event is fired by the document as soon as the HTML is completely parsed, which means that the HTML has been downloaded and been converted to the DOM tree. Also, all scripts must be downloaded and executed before the DOM content loaded event can happen. And of course, we can listen to that event, and since it happens on the document, we call the addEventListener method on the document. And then the name of the event is, as I mentioned, DOM content loaded. All right. Now, this event does actually not wait for images and other external resources to load. Okay, so just HTML and JavaScript need to be loaded. So let's not take a look at this event, or basically just log something to the console. So HTML parsed and DOM tree built. And we can also take a look at the event. Okay, so let's see. And so indeed, we get the event here right basically at the beginning. And in this case, it's a bit hard to see. And so let's again go to our network tab. And I'm decreasing it here, and I will set it to fast 3G now. And down here, you can actually see the time that it takes for the event to be fired. So in this case, it was just 85 milliseconds, and so therefore it was really fast. So let's try that again with a fast 3G connection. And so now it actually took 2 seconds for the JavaScript and the HTML to load. But you see that still after that, some other code here or some other stuff kept loading. So that's probably all these images that we have here. And of course, as we keep scrolling, then these other images also start loading. So that's what's happening here. All right. So with this here, we can now execute code that should only be executed after the DOM is available. And in fact, we want all our code only to be executed after the DOM is ready, right? So does that mean that we should wrap our entire code into an event listener like this? So with a function like this? Well, actually no, we don't need to do that. And that's because we have the script tag, which is the one that imports or JavaScript into the HTML right at the end of the body. So you see, it is down here. So basically, it's the last thing that is going to be read in the HTML. And so basically, the browser will only find our script when the rest of the HTML is already parsed anyway. So when we have the script tag here at the end of the HTML, then we do not need to listen for the DOM content loaded event. Okay. Now, there are also other ways of loading the JavaScript file with the script tag, but we're going to talk about that in our next lecture. All right. Now, if you're coming to vanilla JavaScript from jQuery, then you're probably used to wrap all your code into a document ready function, which in JavaScript, or actually in jQuery, looks something like this. And so this is equivalent to the DOM content loaded in vanilla JavaScript. Okay, but again, no such thing is necessary in regular JavaScript. Okay, anyway, next up, there is also the load event. And the load event is fired by the window as soon as not only the HTML is parsed, but also all the images and external resources like CSS files are also loaded. So basically, when the complete page has finished loading is when this event gets fired. So as always, we can also then listen to that. So load, function. And then here we can log page fully loaded along with the event. So let's take a look here in our console. So we already got this event, and then at the end, when everything was finished, we also got this load event. So you see, it's just a regular event object like we already know. And again, this load time actually appears down here in the network tab. All right, we can also see the amount of kilobytes that was downloaded. And so this network tab is really nice, and it gives us a lot of information about loading our pages. And of course, you can try to explore this network tab a little bit more on your own. Now, finally, the last event that I want to show you is the before unload event, which also gets fired on window. So window.add event listener. And so that's before unload. And this event here is created immediately before a user is about to leave a page. So for example, after clicking this close button here in the browser tab. So we can basically use this event to ask users if they are 100% sure that they want to leave the page. Now, in some browsers, to make this work, we need to call prevent default here. In Chrome, it's not necessary, but some browsers require it. And then we can also take a look at the event itself. Here, let's remove that. And actually, in order to display a leaving confirmation, we need to set the return value on the event to an empty string. So return value and an empty string. And this probably looks a bit weird, but this is for historical reasons. All right, so let me show you what happens as we try to close the tab now. And so now we get this pop-up here indeed, which asks us if we want to leave the site. Now, a long time ago, developers were actually able to customize the message that was displayed here. But then, of course, many people started to abuse this. And so now we can only see this generic message. So no matter what we write here, we will always get this same pop-up. Okay. So let's remove this. And this can, of course, sometimes be useful, but sometimes it's also a bit too much. So let's actually remove all of this here. Okay. Now we cannot even reload the page here. I will actually have to open up a new tab with this and close this one. All right. So really, please don't abuse this kind of feature, because a message like this is, of course, pretty intrusive, and it should only be displayed when necessary. So don't be one of these developers who abuses of too much power. So the only time you should prompt the user if they really want to leave the page is, for example, when the user is leaving in the middle of filling out a form or like writing a blog post or something like that. So a situation in which data could actually be lost by accident. And that's actually all I had to show you. So that's the 3 events that can be quite helpful in some situations, and especially this one, I would say. All right. And now in the next video, to finish this section, we will take a closer look at this event and at different ways of loading scripts in HTML.